And now for our story. This afternoon, Ben Calvert's big black limousine rolled smoothly along the highway which led back to Wakefield from Stanton, the county seat, where Kitt's marriage to Bill Meade has just been dissolved. Ben was at the wheel, with his daughter Kitt beside him, while Jessie, his wife, sat in back. Now, as he drives through the peaceful countryside, Ben's voice is complacent as he says,
That Farnsworth's certainly a competent man. Smooth as butter, too.
Yes. He made that McKillop look like a country bumpkin. Hey, by the way, will Mr. Farnsworth be at the house for dinner tonight?
Well, he'll let us know. He had some other business to attend to in Stanton. Might drive on back to Chicago from there.
Well, it doesn't matter especially. I just wondered.
I really enjoyed myself this morning. You know, Angus McKillop's always had it in for me. And I know he'd love to trip me up if he ever got a chance. But he didn't do himself much good this morning.
Well, he struck me as being rather ill at ease. As if he knew very well he was fighting a losing battle. He didn't have a thing on his side, actually.
Oh, the old scarecrow. With that red hair, his tie all on one side. Of course, I'll have to admit he's an intelligent enough man when it comes to law. But he has no sense at all in a business way. If he did, he'd never have taken a case like this. He must have known he couldn't win.
Maybe he's another victim of Bill's boyish charm. It's surprising how so many people in Wakefield are taken in by it.
Well, at least you don't need to worry anymore, Kitt. I knew Judge Willoughby would deny that ridiculous petition for the child. He couldn't do anything else. They didn't have a single statement they could make stick.
No, they didn't. Thank goodness.
Well, my dear, now will you stop worrying about things? Cheer up a little. We've got the baby. Your divorce has gone through. Everything's fine. Next time you listen to your dad. I know how to handle these things.
Oh, stop being so smug, Ben. Honestly, the way you pat yourself on the back all the time.
If I don't, nobody else will, Jessie.
Well, if they did, you'd be absolutely insufferable.
Yes, sir, Kitt. Now you can settle down. Begin to enjoy life. I want you to relax. Look after the boy. Live a normal life.
Well, Dad, there's only one way I could live a normal life.
What's that?
I'd have to get out of town. Leave Wakefield.
You mean, take a little trip? Not such a bad idea. Probably do you good to get a change of scenery for a while. You say, why don't you take a run up to New York?
New York might be all right. Or Arizona or Florida or Timbuktu, for that matter. Anywhere, just so I get out of Wakefield.
Yes, I agree, kid. It'd do you good to get away. You haven't been yourself lately. They'd probably make a new woman out of you. I'll help you get some clothes together, if you like.
Oh, that's awfully nice of you, Jessie. But I have everything I need.
Well, if there's anything I can do, I'd be glad to help.
And I'm sure you would. The minute I mention the possibility of clearing out, you're just the most helpful little thing in the world, aren't you? Anything. You'd give me your star sapphire, I think, if I'd only leave 11th Street.
Well, I don't know if I'd go quite that far, kid. But I'll admit I'd welcome the chance to wave a fond farewell from the station platform.
Yes, I'll bet you would.
Now listen to me, you two. I'm in no mood to listen to one of your squabbles. There's no reason why the three of us can't be together for 10 minutes without you two behaving like a couple of alley cats. Now, about your trip, Kitt. I think Florida might be a good idea. Just go down there, lie in the sun, forget all about the past. And you needn't worry about the baby.
Needn't I?
No. Miss Thorndyke and I can look after the boy. You can forget all about him.
Oh, if only I could.
What's that, Kitt?
Oh, nothing, Ted. But I'm afraid you're on the wrong track. I've no intention of leaving the child here when I go away.
Oh, but that's ridiculous. You can't go dragging that youngster all over the place. You know how difficult traveling still is. And besides, what sort of a rest would that be for you?
Well, naturally, Dad, I'd take Miss Thorndyke along.
Nonsense. You leave that child right where he is. In his nice, comfortable nursery. Besides, you know it's not good for them to have their routines changed. All has to be readjusted again in a month or two when you came home.
Dad, you're missing the point. I don't intend to be gone for just a month or two.
All right. 3 months.
No, Dad. I'm leaving for an indefinite stay.
An indefinite? Now, look here, Kitt. If you have any foolish idea of taking that baby out of the house indefinitely, going off on some wild goose chase...
It's not a wild goose chase. I'm going away to look for some peace and quiet. I'm taking my son with me, and that's all. It's perfectly natural.
It's insane.
Oh, I don't know why you're getting so excited about Ben. Kit has the right to do what she pleases. She wants to take her child and go somewhere.
Kitt,
Well, why?
that child is my grandson.
Yes. But he's also my son. And I propose to take him with me when I leave Wakefield. I'm sick to death of the town. I'm sick of that house on 11th Street. I've got to go away or I'll go stark raving mad. Now, does that make it any clearer? It should please you, Jesse.
Look here, Kitt. I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm getting to be an old man. Maybe you think all I care about is my business, making money. But you're wrong. I do that for you, for the family. Since you brought home that baby, I felt like a different person. Felt I had something to work for, live for. You know how I always wanted a son, Kitt?
Yes, I do know. I ought to. I was the one who suffered for it because I wasn't a boy.
No, that isn't fair. I don't see how you can say that. Haven't I always looked out for your best interest?
Yes, if they've coincided with your own, Dad.
Kitt, I want to do everything I can for my grandson. I've set up that trust fund. You go to the best schools. You'll have the very best of opportunities. I've always let you do what you wanted. Now there's something I want, and it isn't a great deal to ask. That is, that you give me the pleasure of watching my grandson grow up in my own house. In my last years, Kitt. It's the least you could do for your old dad.
Oh, to hear you talk, one would think you were on your last legs.
Sometimes that's the way I feel. It hasn't been easy for me, Kitt. I've had to fight the hard way for everything I've gotten. I've had very little pleasure. Now I want to bring that child up to know how to take care of himself in this world. That's all I look forward to. If you take him away...
Oh, Dad, if I didn't know you better, I'd probably fall for this tear-jerking scene you're putting on. You're so pathetic. But I do know you better, and I think I've got a right to live my own life.
All right. That's the way you want it. Now, you go ahead. Go anywhere you like. But that grandson of mine stays with me, Kitt. That's final.
Well, here we are home anyway. Oh, I think I could do with a cup of tea. How about you, Ben?
No, I have to get on down to the office. I'll see you later. And, Kitt, remember what I said.
Well, I suppose now he's going to sulk.
You know what a temper Dad has, Jesse.
Yes, when he's afraid he won't get his own way.
I should have known Dad would make an outcry if I wanted to take that child away.
Naturally, Ben would. You know, kid, it's just possible that I might be able to help you.
Help me. This is rather amusing, Jesse. For once, we're on the same side. I want to go, and you want me to. It's almost a temptation to stay, just to thwart you.
Well, that would be pretty silly, wouldn't it, kid? Biting off your nose to spite your face?
Anyway, I don't see what you could do.
Oh, you never know. I might think of something.
I can't imagine what you have in mind, Jesse. But knowing you, I'm inclined to be suspicious.
Well, you want to leave, don't you? That's the main thing. What do you care so long as you manage? And there may be a way.
I know you've got something up your sleeve, Jesse. But frankly, I'd rather worry along without your help. Because the truth is, I don't trust you for 1 minute.
Kitt's instinct was right. Jessie Calvert was only interested in getting Ben's daughter and the baby out of the house. And she was thinking that if she could find a way to help Bill Meade gain legal custody of the baby, then Kitt would have no reason to stay. And she thought that she had found a way. Yes, Kitt, you'd better watch Jessie carefully, for she may succeed in her plan. And the last thing you want is to lose custody of Lisa Fenner's child before you can make it legally your own. And now for our story. It was early evening. Bill Meade had returned from Stanton late this afternoon after a tiring day, during which he'd gained his freedom and lost his request for custody of his baby son. He hadn't really been surprised about that. He'd known from the beginning that it was a very long chance, the possibility that custody of the child would be awarded to him. At least, though the divorce was settled, he was glad to have it over. But he felt weary. He knew he ought to think about the future and make some sort of plan. but not tonight. He ruled against walking into town for dinner. Instead, he heated a can of soup, drank a glass of milk, was just settling down in his one comfortable chair to smoke a cigarette and read the evening newspaper when there was a knock at the door. Bill strode over to open it and found Nicholas Dorn smiling at him, rather self-consciously.
Well, hello, Nicholas. Come in.
Thanks. Sure you're not busy?
No, I was just going to kill a little time reading the evening paper. Sit down, Nicholas.
Ah, thanks. Well, look, Bill, if you've got nothing planned, how about joining forces with me? I haven't much to offer in the way of scintillating entertainment, but I've got a bottle up in my room. Or we might drive out to that roadhouse on the highway to Stanton.
Thanks, Dorn, but I've made one trip to Stanton today, and...
Okay, I just thought you might feel a little like celebrating.
Well, I guess it's the conventional thing to do, but... I'm afraid I don't feel much like it.
How'd it go today, Bill? Unless you'd rather not talk about it.
No, that's okay. Kitt got the divorce all right. It was over very quickly.
Must have seemed like something of an anticlimax after the months of waiting she put you through.
Well, yes. But I'm glad it was short. Darn grateful that we didn't have to go through the wrangle of a contested divorce.
After having met your former wife, I'm surprised you didn't. She's... Well, it's hardly the time for postmortems. What about your son, Bill? Or is that a foolish question?
Very foolish, I'm afraid. Kitt was awarded custody of the child.
That accounts for your somewhat battered look. You really hadn't expected anything else, had you, Bill?
No. I knew it was one chance in 100. Oh, but you know how it is, Dorn. I thought something might happen.
Sure.
But I'll be okay once I get used to the idea of not seeing that kid of mine. At least I hope I will. It's funny what happens to you when you have a kid. It's knowing you have a certain responsibility, I guess. But you feel as if you owe something to this person who would never have existed if...
I think I can guess how you feel. Of course, you know me. I'm the gay young bachelor type. Man about town, all that sort of thing. Who do I think I'm kidding, I wonder?
Not me, anyway.
Well, Bill, since you won't subscribe to my suggested treatment for the troubled mind, I better shove off.
I wish you wouldn't, Dorn.
Well, the girl at the newsstand at the hotel is holding a couple of mystery stories for me, and to quote her, they're really very scary, so I'm sure they'll put me to sleep very quickly. You know, when I started over here tonight, I had some idea that maybe you'd need a drinking companion or something like that. I was feeling pretty much at loose ends myself, but actually, I don't think misery loves company, do you?
As a matter of fact, I'm very glad you stopped by tonight. Because aside from its being swell of you, Dorn, I think there's something we ought to discuss.
Oh, what's that?
Peggy.
Well, I had my mind firmly made up not to mention that subject tonight.
Oh, I think we should. At least, there's something I feel I should tell you. I almost wish you hadn't been so darn decent about everything. It's much easier when you hate a guy. Want to give him a punch in the nose.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Nicholas, you know I'm in love with Peggy. I always have been. But I have to find out how she feels about me. You realize that, don't you?
Realize it? So that's what I've been hanging around for. If I had any sense, I should have cleared out, I suppose, but I decided to wait until your marriage and all that got settled. I knew you couldn't make a move before that. Well, now it's happened.
Yeah.
Bill, so far as I'm concerned, I'd appreciate your taking me off these tenterhooks. You see, I may be crazy, but I'm uncomfortably sure that Peggy's in love with you. Always has been. Of course, there's a faint possibility that I'm wrong. You're the only guy who can find that out.
This is the darndest setup, Nicholas. I can't wish myself any good luck without at the same time planning to cut your throat.
Oh, don't worry about that. I'm not being noble, you know. In fact, I'm being strictly an opportunist. I just want to know the worst, so I can begin the slow process of getting back on my emotional feet if it's possible. Besides, as you said, you have to know how you stand with Peggy.
Of course, even if she feels as I hope she does, that doesn't necessarily mean things will work out for us.
I don't know why they shouldn't, under the circumstances. I mean, I know you feel lousy about not getting that baby of yours, but In a way, it may be for the best, so far as Peggy's concerned. At least that's the way it looks to me.
I know that. I've known it all along. I don't see how she'd ever be willing to bring up a child of Kitt's.
I can't say I blame her, Bill. With all due deference to your former wife, I think she's a menace. Hope you don't mind.
No.
So, as I say, you can hardly blame Peggy for not wanting to have anything to do with her child. Even if the child is yours, too.
There still is a possibility, though. I mean, this lawyer of mine told me today if any new evidence came to light.
New evidence? What effect would that have?
Well, if there were anything we could prove which pointed to Kitt's not being a suitable parent.
You mean you could reopen the case or file a new claim, whatever they call it, and you might get custody of the baby after all?
Yeah. Oh, it's probably not even worthwhile considering, but it could happen.
It does make a difference, doesn't it? Because if Peggy is in love with you and you did get together on it, and all of a sudden you found out you could have the child anyway.
It wouldn't be so good from her standpoint. And yet maybe you think I'm nuts, but I have to take that angle into account.
No, I don't think you're nuts. But I'll tell you this, Bill. I'm worried about Peggy. About what she might do if you guys don't talk this thing out.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm afraid she might do something foolish. Such as marrying me.
Well, if that's what she decides, what she wants.
Wouldn't necessarily be the thing she wants, Bill. She might do it out of desperation, just to burn her bridges. I've held out as long as I could. If I hadn't, Peggy and I would have been married long before this.
I know. You're an amazing guy.
Maybe I'm a dope. I just didn't want her to butcher herself up if I could help it. And I've been motivated by a certain amount of self-preservation. It's getting very tough, frankly. I'll tell you something, Bill. I'm rapidly approaching the moment when I'll forget my scruples and marry the girl anyway, whether she's in love with me or not, if I can get her.
Nicholas, I've told her I had something to ask her. As soon as I was free.
Well, I'll feel a lot better when you go out to the Lane farm and ask the little girl that big question. If by some happy chance I'm all wrong and she doesn't love you, brother, you just watch my dust. So the sooner you find out, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
And me. Maybe I could go out there tonight.
Fine. And in case you think I'm not wishing you good luck, I'm not.
Nicholas Dorn and Bill Meade shook hands, rather solemnly, despite Nicholas's trying to cover up his true feelings by joking. At last, he thought, as he drove back to his room at the Brown Palace Hotel, he'd know where he stood once Bill and Peggy talked things over. Of course, as Bill had said, it would make a difference to Peggy if Bill should get custody of that baby. But it didn't seem very likely that he would. And yet there was one person in Wakefield who might just bring that situation about. Jessie Calvert, Kitt's stepmother, who was very anxious to see Kitt and the baby leave Ben Calvert's home. Now for our story. In Wakefield this morning, Aunt Mary Lane was cutting across the courthouse square on her way to the bank. It was a pleasant day. She was thinking that it wouldn't be long before it would be warm enough to sit out on the front porch of the farmhouse in the evenings after supper. She and Lefty always enjoyed that so. This year, Randy would be there, too. This thought brought a happy little smile to the corners of her mouth, and she was so absorbed that she didn't notice the tall, red-haired man sitting on one of the green benches along the path, with his long legs stretched out comfortably. So she was startled when she heard him say,
Good morning, Aunt Mary.
Oh, why, it's Angus McKillop. Good morning.
You look remarkably pleased about something.
Do I? I was just thinking about my son, Randy. How nice it is having him home.
Yes, it's a good thing when a son comes home to his mother safe and sound. I'm glad for you, Aunt Mary.
Thank you, Angus.
I'm just sitting here enjoying this very morning. It's a practice of mine. When I have any thinking to do, I like to do it in God's green outdoors. Keeps my head clear.
It's a good idea.
Won't you join me? It's been a month of Sunday since we've had a little talk.
Well, that's so, it has. Well, I think I'll accept your invitation, Angus. This is nice. That sun's quite warm for this time of the year.
It is that. It's my opinion if people would spend more time sitting in the sun and thinking, and less inside talking, the world would be a lot better off.
Yes, I quite agree with you.
Sometimes I wish I'd never gotten the bee in my bonnet to be a lawyer. The more you see of the ways of the world, the grayer it appears to be.
Sounds like you've got something on your mind, Angus. Something bothering you?
Something is, in a way. That young friend of yours, Bill Meade.
Oh, I was just on my way over to see Bill. I wanted to ask him how things went yesterday.
Well, by all that's... Why didn't you ask me if you had it in your mind to?
Ask you? I thought perhaps it wasn't proper to ask Bill's attorney until I talked to Bill himself.
You're a wise woman, Mary Lane. But you should know by now that I think you're no gossip. I trust you with the darkest mystery and know it was safe.
Well, if that's the case, I am very anxious to hear how the divorce trial came out. As you know, all of us out at the farm are concerned about it.
Well, Mary, I regret to tell you, it was a sorry failure.
Oh, dear. That's a shame.
The divorce went through, right enough.
I see. But Bill didn't get the baby.
The baby's been given into Mrs. Meade's custody, just as I expected from the first.
Oh, that's too bad. Poor Bill.
The lad's disappointed, of course. But I told him all along it was bound to be.
Perhaps, Angus. Of course, you know all about the legal side of it. But somehow
Now, don't tell me you were expecting anything else.
Not exactly expecting, but I did hope against hope. Judge Willoughby's such a fair man.
Certainly he's fair. But there wasn't a thing in the world he could do but give the bairn to the mother. I told the lad so from the beginning, just as soon as I knew all the facts. I wanted to prepare him for the worst. I fear it didn't do much good, though.
No. I just imagined Bill felt the way I did, that there was so much on his side, he must somehow win out.
Much on his side, you say? Now, if there's something on his side, I'd have known it, wouldn't I? No, the boy hadn't a single basis for a claim.
But, Angus, surely he told you what the situation is in the Calvert house. Kitt's attitude toward the child. And I shouldn't think he'd need to tell you much about Ben Calvert after the years you've spent in this town.
Oh, by the Lord, Harry. You're as bad as the boy is, Mary. There are nothing more than accusations without the least possibility of proof. No foundation.
No foundation. Angus McKillop, I'm surprised at you.
Now, hold your horses, Mary Lane. I didn't say they weren't true. But they might as well be false unless we can prove them. That's what I told our knuckle-headed young friend. He wants to continue fighting the thing. I told him he'd be mad to.
Well, Angus, maybe you're getting old.
Huh? What do you mean by that?
Well, when a man like yourself, a man who's always been honest and full of spirit, just sits down and gives up without even trying. I'm surprised at you, Angus.
Now, look, my dear lady, I'm an attorney. I deal with facts. What a silly fool I'd make of myself, bringing up these fancy allegations. And no more being able to prove them than that sparrow over there in the walk.
Well, I never thought I'd see the day when anybody could call Angus McKillop
what?
A quitter, Angus.
A quitter? The man who calls me that is... Now, listen. What about the rumors last year? Dunham versus Murphy. Suppose I sat down on a job then?
No, Angus, you put up a fair fight. And you won, too.
Of course I won. The most hopeless mix-up I ever ran into. That innocent-looking old duffer with his white hair and his pink cheeks. Nobody believed for a minute he'd so much as hurt a fly. And there he was, with his hat full of other people's savings. Who dug out the truth, I'd like to know? With the whole town against me, too.
You did, Angus.
Well, then, there you are.
Yes, that's exactly what I mean, Angus. You used to be a brave man, a good fighter. It's a pity you've changed.
Who said that? Oh, why don't I learn not to bandy words with a woman? McKillop, you're addled in the head.
Well, it's been nice chatting with you, Angus, but I must be running along.
Goodbye to you, Mary Lane. The world lost a fine prosecuting attorney when you married Randolph. The way you dug a pit and then watch a man walk into it. To think I should be trapped by a...
By a very good friend, but one who wants you to do what you know is right. Goodbye, Angus.
Aunt Mary was quite pleased with the results of this conversation, for she knew Angus to be an honest man with a strong desire to be just. Once his conscience was aroused to an injustice, wild horses couldn't hold him. Now she continued across the square, entered the bank a few minutes later. Bill Meade, on the way to his desk, saw her at once.
Gosh, it's good to see you, Aunt Mary. I've been hoping all morning you'd drop in.
Then I'm glad I did, Bill.
Come back to my little cubbyhole where we can talk, huh?
All right, Bill.
Well, here we are, such as it is. Sit here, Aunt Mary.
Oh, thanks. Oh, this is nice, Bill. You certainly have plenty of privacy.
Yes. Yeah, I'm well barricaded behind those files. But it's kind of like being in a cave.
I just talked to Angus on my way over.
Oh. Well, then I suppose he told you what happened yesterday.
Yes.
Oh, of course I wasn't surprised.
No, but you were disappointed just the same. I understand that. I'm sorry about it, Bill.
Yeah. I should have known better than to hope they'd give me custody of the baby. Everybody told me not to expect it.
But when you feel in your heart a thing is just, you can't help thinking it will come out that way. At least, though, Bill, the divorce part is over. I'm sure you're glad about that.
Oh, sure. It's good to know where I stand that way.
It's one thing that's settled. I imagine Kitt's glad about it, too, not having to go through an ugly, contested trial.
Yeah, I hated the thought of it. And yet, Aunt Mary, feeling the way I do about that baby of mine, much as I'd hate starting all over again, I'd like to try.
I know, Bill.
But Angus McKillop...
It was pretty discouraging, wasn't he?
He told me flatly I'd be foolish to petition for reopening the case. That is, unless I had some evidence to present on my side. And since I haven't...
Well, Bill, you know, I understand how you feel, but I wouldn't give up hope even so. You can never tell what will happen.
I doubt if there's much chance.
Don't you be too sure.
But Mr. McKillop said for me to forget the whole thing. That I'd only make myself a lot of trouble and expense for nothing.
I can imagine he did. But I've a feeling he might reconsider his decision.
You have? What makes you think so, Aunt Mary?
Oh, just call it a hunch. Bill, would you like to come out to the farm for dinner tonight?
Oh, gosh, I'd love to, Aunt Mary.
I don't know what we'll have, but I'll dig up something.
I almost telephoned you last night to ask if I could drop out for a while. But I was pretty tired.
Yes, I imagine you were. Well, tonight is fine with us. About 5:30? Or is that too early?
Oh, no, that's swell. No, the earlier the better for me, Aunt Mary.
After waiting so long, Bill was thinking, now every minute of delay was a wasted one. For at last he could see Peggy, talk to her as a free man. And yet he wondered how much he dared hope for a talk with Peggy. Nicholas Dorn seemed sure that Peggy loved Bill. But perhaps Nicholas was wrong. Perhaps Peggy had fallen in love with Nicholas, after all.